Hello and welcome to the Spooky Screen. My name is Steven and I'm the host of this podcast. Along with me are my hosts, David, Johnny, Noah, and Nick. Today we'll be discussing my co-host. Today we'll be discussing episode 11 of Yellowjackets, or episode 1 of season 2, whatever you want to call it. Friends, Romans, Countrymen. If this is the first review you are tuning into, we've also reviewed Yellowjackets season 1. That's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and or YouTube. And then lastly, but most important, spoiler alert, we'll be getting into the details of episode 1 of season 2 in detail starting right now. So let's get into it. Thumbs up, thumbs down, guys. Did you like this episode or did you not like this episode?
I just got why they called this episode what they called it.
Yeah. Why did they call it this episode what they called it?
Lend me your ears.
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
There we go.
Very clever. All right, so no one liked this episode.
Actually, now I like the episode. No.
All right, Johnny, why don't we start with you then?
Okay, guys. So I watched Yellowjackets season 2, episode 1. As Noah said, this is the winter season now. We saw them crash, and they got through fall, but now it's winter. They don't have food. So I was one of great faith in season 1. Someone who was a fighter for the cause of the Yellowjackets. I was a proud New Jerseyan with a proud New Jersey plot, and I was very, very, very excited that the show would be bigger than life. And so far, this first episode of the new season has fallen so hard on its face. Might as well call it a pancake, because I can't even comprehend how you could go through a whole season premiere and almost accomplish nothing after the end of the last season. You know, there were so many questions to start getting into, and somehow they've answered half of them without anything happening. And it's just very defeating. I have not a lot of hope for plot lines. I don't think any stakes are raised. There's nothing impending, nothing concerning. I'm not thinking about anything happening. Just kind of was just like they moved a couple individual plots along. And the only thing I'm invested in is if they can find Javi. That's it. So my takeaway was they did not synthesize a good narrative that gets the audience interested after interesting first season, albeit a weird ending. And they haven't shown any reason why you should be interested still. So
nothing grabbing your attention, essentially. Yeah.
I mean, not at all.
Yeah.
Except for Javi. That's the right. One hook.
Javi.
They do have a hook in me. I'll give them that. They have one hook in me.
All right, Dave, Mr. Bunnyman, Easter Bunny, give us your take.
Yeah, I didn't like this episode, and if you go back and watch our season 1, I know notoriously bashed episode 1, maybe unfairly. So I can see maybe I'm rushing to judgment quickly, but in my eyes, this show is guilty until proven innocent. And I think
perverted
my main
sense of justice in David's world,
right?
Perverted sense of fashion in David's world.
Hey, I got a 3-year-old. I got a bunch of I got endless amounts of headbands. I could go into it endlessly of all the reasons why I didn't like it, but I think the major big point was they had built up this idea of a cult or a cult in season 1 with capping it off with the kidnapping of Natalie and the bank girl, her friend at the bank, calling and saying, like, do you know Lottie? Was it Lottie Matthews? No.
Yeah, Lottie Matthews. You're right, yeah.
And that was like, we're like, oh my gosh, that was like a big reveal. And they revealed her in episode 1. Why are you building up a character like that in the shadows? Episode 1. This should have been a mid-season review. But that apart, like, the young actress that plays Lottie, her was so sincere and believable, and that what made her character interesting. And the actress that they got to play Lottie seemed like a dollar store, like grifter, like late night, like psychic grifter that you'd see on late night TV, and the cult with their like dollar store Ari Aster masks. It just wasn't entertaining, and this show's gonna have to do a lot to win me back and buy me over.
So ultimately, a lot of your issues comes down with the reveal of Lottie Matthews, the adult form of Lottie, and how it's treating some of its supposedly bigger reveals.
Yeah, like they didn't hold the tension at all. They just released it.
Yeah,
I guess that was supposed to be a big reveal, but it really wasn't.
Right, because they were playing it up as such in the first season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, what are your thoughts, man? Episode 1.
So I know I had some thoughts earlier, but as we talked about it, and as I thought about it, the show, it just reminds me how flat this show really falls. Like, this show tries, I don't even know if I can say the show tries really hard, because it really just seems like all the show does is try to follow every cool trope every other show's ever done to try to justify its existence. It doesn't have its own identity. It would have been really good. Like Johnny says, the whole thing with Javi is the only thing about this show that makes me interested. Lottie seemed interesting until, like David said, they gave an adult reveal way too soon. Her character as a teenager to an adult are just way too disconnected. Nothing about any of the characters, for that matter, from teenagers to adults seem to have any level of connection to one another. And I think that's really my biggest gripe, that they're just such different characters. Nothing about Shauna as an adult connects to Shauna as a teenager. Like, who cares about her life with her husband? And her daughter being an absolute brat. Like, oh my goodness, I wish I was a parent.
I guess at the end of the day, what it feels like is you're being forced to watch two different shows, and you don't like that. Yeah,
and it's just there's no point. There's no
interesting way to say it.
They're trying to be so clever, but they're just being so confusing. They refuse to give answers. They just want to build up all these questions, and they mistake questions as tension, and that annoys the crap out of me.
It's red herrings everywhere.
Yeah, they're like let's
you're saying
confuse
they
you.
must. Yeah.
Yeah, let's confuse you, because that builds tension. Like, no, it just builds confusion, and it makes me feel stupid as a viewer, and I don't want to feel stupid watching something.
I think you said it, Nick. I think that's a really good, insightful point, that they treat open-ended questions of the audience asking what's going on with tension. It's not the same. That's not at all the same. You're just confusing the audience and making them uninterested in weird stuff that you're doing, rather than actually writing a plot that builds character tension where you're invested in an outcome of someone. Yeah. You're not really invested in anyone yet, except for Javi for some reason. We all like Javi. I don't know.
It's the character who has the least amount of screen time out of the entire cast.
I think it's because he was the pure character. He's this little boy who didn't deserve what happened to him. Everyone else kind of deserves in the show, so you don't care what happens to them.
Right.
Sorry.
I appreciate that, Nick. I think if I had to boil it down for our listeners, what it comes down to is, like you were saying, two different shows that don't have any sort of connective tissue between them, between the adult Lottie versus the teenage Lottie, or the adult Shauna.
Any adult character to their teenage character. There's such a major disconnect.
Would you say that you would enjoy Yellowjackets more if it was just focused specifically on the teenage timeline where they were surviving out in the wilderness? Would that be a more compelling show?
Yeah, I would say either that, or if they just focused on like 3 specific characters and just left it at those 3 characters. Give us 3 actual main characters and not 10 to 12 main characters. Not an
ensemble cast. Yeah, I saw they were trying to like add a couple new girls this season. And the girl who was like, "Let's sing together, Misty," and I was like, "This is another character that they're adding into the mix," which is
lost. So lost all over again.
Lost.
Yeah.
It's so pointless.
All right, Mr. Antler King, hit us with your thoughts.
Yeah, if you remember from last season, I actually did turn out to be the Antler Queen.
That's
Remember?
right.
I won.
I won too. Thank you very much.
Shut up, Nick.
We tied for.
Don't
Antler
take
Queen
my
again.
moment.
Wait, what did you guys win?
Shine.
I came this close to spitting out my seltzer.
We had the best. We were the best dressed to do coming.
That's right.
Yeah, we had our Doom coming.
So I hate to punch this show when you've already punched it. Really hard.
Just imagine you're taking a teenage girl and you're just punching her.
No, I really don't want to. I really want to like this show. I really do.
That needs to be the opening line.
I just echo what everyone said. The main thing that bothers me is that the show moved its plot forward at a snail's pace. Like, it barely did anything. Like, we had this season finale with all these questions, and then they answer them just barely. Like, we just hardly moved. And I hate that in TV shows so much. Like, I'm not one to gravitate toward TV shows. I prefer movies. They're just quicker, and they have like a full story. And Steven has gotten me a little more believer in the TV show structure, how it can be great. And then this show comes around and it's peeling back that faith. It's starting to melt it away with so much filler. I hate it so much. Like, just make moves.
So much work.
Make moves, take risks, just go for the jugular. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Please do that. I still have faith that this season can can pull it out of the bag, and I hope it does. But right now, I did not like this episode, and it's very disappointing.
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed.
To Noah's point, I'm surprised.
No, wait. I want Noah to get closer to the camera. Just say it one more time. Just
Which one?
Just let them know how disappointed you are.
I'm really disappointed.
There
I
you
expect
go.
it better.
to Noah's point, like I don't think I've ever watched a show that's been so slow, but at the same time, like used so much time. Like they skipped 2 months from the last episode. That's way too big of a time skip for what we're dealing with right now. Like,
And if they did jump 2 months forward, what they should have done is introduced a lot of the answers to the questions that we had lingering after the season finale, right? But in a creative and compelling way. And I think that the episode whiffed on that a bit. So I'm going to jump in with my comments. I think a lot of my personal opinions have been repeated here. The two things that stood out most for me was someone said, it feels like a rehash of shows that we've seen in the past, through tropes, through certain scenes and characters, and even the approach and the creation of the show. And I see that as well. Through shows that will go unnamed that I'm just not a big fan of. And I think that it's a bit, they're not putting a unique spin on it in a way that feels new and fresh and exciting to me. So that's one. The second part is that there seems to be a lack of urgency in the storytelling. And
They ain't got no stakes.
I don't have time for that. You have 8 to 10 hours per season these days to convince your audience to come back on a weekly basis, because this is a show that's premiering weekly, to tune in and to watch. And it just doesn't seem like it's willing enough to go out there and go for the jugular, like Noah was saying, it to really define the stakes of its story and to make a compelling case for why it's essential appointment viewing, right, at the end of the day. And I think that the concept itself of Yellowjackets is fascinating and really well regarded on paper. And I think it's deserving of that. But I think the execution leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion. And episode 1 was no different for me, unfortunately. I want to like the show. I did like season 1 still, to some effect. But I think season 2, the stakes are supposed to be raised. The danger is supposed to become greater. Like they're in winter, right? They're supposed to be surviving by the skin of their teeth. And all of that seems to be lacking here. Even when Natalie and Travis go out hunting, it's not, are they going to bring back food or are we going to starve for another full day? None of that is really discussed, right? None of the survival terms in context of them living out in the wilderness is defined and built in a way that seems realistic enough. That is all kind of glossed over for more so the character development of these teenage girls and Travis.
That's what I was saying, Stephen. That
this seems lacking to me. Yeah.
It's a drama that they're just dressing in, like it's like a pig in lipstick. They're just dressing it in like a survival horror thing. But it's just a drama that they want to develop, and they're not, it's not appropriate, to be honest. Like, I agree with that. Like, I didn't even, well, I don't want to spoil it. I'll get into it when we talk about it.
Spoil it. We have.
I mean, the ending scene is Shauna, the main character, eating an ear that she pulled off her dead friend, and you have zero, capital Z, zero sense that she was hungry that entire episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Zero. Not a single moment does she seem hungry. So in your mind, you don't know why she just ate the ear, and like that's because they talked about her feelings and her sleeping with her friend's boyfriend, and like every dumb girl teenage show trope. Instead of actually dealing with that, they're dying in the wilderness.
She's also pregnant, by the way, so she has to feed for 2 people, right? And so I think, again, they continuously whiff on this, right?
It's like, I thought there was
she
like
got a belly.
I thought there was a major plot line that she like tried to abort it.
She tried, but she failed.
Yeah, but it didn't work.
She stopped. Yeah, I think it's lacking.
My bad. It was that forgettable.
It doesn't ground itself, and the world doesn't feel believable, and for that reason, you're not tethered to the development scene by scene throughout this episode. And
can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because you said it was never discussed that she was hungry, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think even visually it was never shown because she comes in with a plate full of meat that she pulled from the freezer. I think
she's
if you wanted to show that. That'd have been interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
or maybe that would have been the reveal at the end, right? Instead of her eating the ear, like she's taking a knife and then cuts a rib out of Jackie, and you're like, oh, that's where she's getting it, Yeah. Like Soylent Green is Jackie, whatever her last
Jackie O's.
Jackie O's. Okay, so none of us liked it. We obviously
have
a lot of opinions about it.
Hey, that's our episode, folks.
What are we gonna do? We don't like it.
So
the lead writer needs to understand exactly that. No more setup.
Yeah.
No more setup. We had a season of setup. If I see a single more setup, I'm turning the show off. I'm
So-
gonna send you a nicely worded email.
We
don't wanna
respect
read it.
you, showrunners and
You're so
executive producers.
talented, but this is kind of not your
And
best
this-
work.
this
And I'm
show
a little
has a-
disappointed.
You have a good idea here. Don't waste it.
The
You
table
know?
is set. Let's eat.
So one important
it's
thing
already
before
wasted, in my opinion.
one important thing before we jump
Oh,
into the plot
damn.
breakdown. Damn, coming out with guns blazing, Nick.
Remember, Nick only needs to watch one episode of anything.
That's right.
Make
It's
it
a masterpiece.
That's
Mr.
true.
Book of Boba Fett over here. So
Like,
since
my inner Star Wars nerd had a lot of faith.
this was never initiated, I'm calling this the do not watch protocol, and it's only triggered when all 5 of us give an episode a thumbs down, right? And basically by majority decision, a simple majority, so only 3 out of 5. If 3 out of the 5 of us decide we're not going to watch any more episodes, we stop the series review right then and there. So
Oh, jeez. That's
We're
not
going-
my
Then we have to keep watching so we can just keep crapping all over it. Like,
well,
I can't wait to be the person that makes you guys watch the entire season.
You want 8 episodes of us crapping on it, Nick? That's
Do audiences
that's what
want
so we have to do.
I'm gonna
Maybe-
like every episode.
Get your fiber ready.
So we're gonna do the plot breakdown, and then we're gonna vote at the end. Do we want to
Oh,
keep watching the
Jesus.
season?
Mm.
And if
Mm.
there is 3 people that vote no, then we stop the season review right then and there.
man.
Wait, we
and
only
go
need-
on to
I feel
go
like
on
we
to
need.
greener pastures. Wait, Nick,
Yeah.
let me just finish. We
Okay.
go on to greener pastures. That's it. No questions asked. It's done over there. Season 2 review stops, and we move on to bigger and better things with our time.
I bought
So-
these antler ears for nothing, is what you're telling me.
Be Rudolph
That was a
for
personal
Halloween.
decision.
Where's my Amazon? I'm just gonna return these really quick.
You didn't consult your financial advisor before that purchase.
Here, Noah turns the camera off. Jenna, get the box.
All right.
Where's the box?
So episode 1, plot breakdown, and you guys just feel free to jump in. This is gonna be very, very abbreviated, right?
Don't jump in too much. Let's be honest.
Don't jump in too much, yeah.
This is a rowdy crew.
Episode 11 opens up with Natalie and Travis going out into the wilderness to hunt for some food. They get some wicked in Natalie's words done to them by Lottie that casts a protective spell over them so that they can return back to the cabin safely at the end of the night.
Can I jump in?
Yeah. Go for it.
The one interesting point I took away from this moment and from this episode is that if you think about it, and maybe people would disagree with this, but if you think about how many of the I don't want to say world religions, but a lot of offshoots of religions in the wilderness, jungle, wherever it might be, have some type of magic, witch doctor, Wicca. You could assume this is how they form, and like maybe this is an interesting peek back into the past of the genesis of like these kind of magic religions that develop. Maybe there's some truth in their origin. That kind of was interesting to me. I don't think they're going to lean into that at all in a healthy way, but I thought it was cool.
With that being said, Lottie, we shift briefly towards Lottie, and this is where the episode fractures into 3 different timelines. So we have the 1996 timeline where the girls are surviving in the wilderness, the present day timeline where the girls have all grown up and are adults, and now we have a new timeline, 1998, where the girls are finally rescued, and they're taken out across the tarmac. And I found this to be quite ironic. While photographers and journalists are clamoring to get their attention and an interview and photographs of them, the girls are hiding behind these hooded jackets, and they're whisked away into a plane, which I found to be absolutely hilarious.
Right? Why would you put them
Yeah,
on?
right.
Why would you put them on a plane? Yeah, after they've survived the plane crash, I feel like I would have driven them to wherever they needed to go. Anyways, Lottie ends up dealing with post-traumatic syndrome, is electroshocked. Yeah, PTSD
I think she was possessed.
or whatever. We don't know, right? But she
We don't
went through electroshock therapy, and then she screams at the crowd as she gets on the airplane, and that ends that basically. Meanwhile, we
I find it
revi-
hard to believe that they do electric shock therapy in 1996.
Yeah, I was about to
but
say, like, is that a
whatever.
believable use of like
think so. She went to
medication
Europe.
in 1998?
she went to Europe for that. Did that
Oh.
was that clear?
I
at
didn't
all to
catch
you guys?
that. I didn't catch
she
Yeah,
was
that.
in-
if that was
Oh,
supposed to,
yeah.
when did they explain that at all?
Sorry, you can only get that in Europe.
Anyways, the adult girls, Shauna, Thaisa, Misty, they're all doing their thing. Misty is helping Shauna train for a potential police interrogation about Adam's death. Thaisa picks up a new dog named Steve to woo her son over to her side, but her wife refuses to let him visit her because of what she's discovered in her basement. Natalie,
Can we just
meanwhile,
mention that was
yeah.
a major plot point that was just immediately brushed over, and that was
Brushed
it, never
over,
to be spoken
right.
of again?
We're just supposed to
Also,
like Thaisa now.
Right?
Right.
They were
And
like,
then-
here's a major thing. She beheaded a dog in her sleep and created an altar. Anyway, like, what?
Hey,
yeah,
but
it's
she
still there.
wants to
It's still
have
down
a-
there too.
Right? And like,
It's
yeah,
still
she
down
goes down there, but it's like a 2-second scene where she's like, oh my god, come here, doggy, comfort me. And I'm like,
I don't know about you, but if I found a demonic throne in the basement of my house, number one, I would have cleaned it up. I would have thrown it out immediately. Would have like thrown some holy water all over the place, not left everything in place perfectly. And then number two, I would do exactly what her wife was doing and keep my child far, far away from her. But anyways, that's what's going on in Thaisa's world, grown-up Thaisa's world. In Natalie's world, grown-up Natalie, she's strapped to a bed in a room, and this purple-clothed prison guard keeps visiting her with food. Natalie eventually breaks out, as she does, and runs into adult Lottie there, who is clothed in orange. Yes.
That was another big miss for me because that was a really interesting thing that they were starting to develop between Natalie and her guard, and I thought they were going to let that play out for a couple episodes. Like Natalie is like a street smart character, so I thought
Right.
she'd like start to win the guard over and maybe we'd learn a little bit more about the cult and what Lottie's been up to from the guard, and then Natalie escapes. But they didn't hold the tension at all. They just set it up and released it.
right. And then they made
Right.
that guard look
Butterfly.
like an idiot, where she was just like, I know you're dangerous, but you're not dangerous enough to stab you with a fork. Oh no, you stabbed me with a fork.
And that was the weakest. Like when she hit that cult member with the wooden stick. Come on, you're fighting for your life. She was like, eh.
Get your ass back up, son, and defend yourself. Defend your matriarchy. So yes, I agree with you, David. I think Lottie's reveal could have been played up for a more dramatic effect, but I think they just kind of was like, oh,
They didn't have
just
to.
throw it out there.
But they reveal her in the very beginning of like with that yoga session. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
and
Yeah.
I don't think
that
they
was
needed that.
so weird.
I don't think they needed that at all.
Hello.
I think they could have played the mystery up.
Yes,
And it's odd to me that they've been hinting at adult Van in the season 2 trailer, and she has yet to be revealed, and yet they revealed Lottie this way. And I think this goes back to what Noah has been saying about Lottie being maybe a red herring. It kind of lends some credence to that theory, I think. So they're just not treating her as maybe a final boss type
But-
villain here.
they
But
did that with
the-
Misty in season 1,
it-
though.
There's the boy who cried wolf is a thing. I think we probably talked about this last season.
Hmm.
You can only use red herring so many times. It's not a mode of operation. Okay, if you use it in every episode for 5 seasons, you're gonna have made the worst show ever made. So I'm warning you, Showtime. Stop using red herrings. Use blue herrings, green herrings,
That is a
purple
threat.
herrings.
How about
One
just
herring.
Fish.
One
There's
herring.
a lot
Two
of
herrings.
colors.
pigeons,
Yep.
crows,
Blue herring, yellow herring.
eagles, anything but herrings in any color at all.
See how creative I am? I don't just use red. I use other colors.
Let's move on
So-
to why Jeff is turned on by murderers.
So let's keep moving forward. In the 1996 timeline, the girls are in the winter of their greatest discontent. Shauna's talking to Jackie's dead body. Misty, I guess by way of Misty, we're introducing some new characters into the mix. And Travis is also broken up about not having found Javi despite a two-month flash forward.
Expedition.
Yeah, 2-month expedition. So the team is not doing too hot these days. The Yellowjackets are down for the count, but not out. Meanwhile, we go back to the present day timeline. Shauna and Jeff raid Adam's studio, where Adam has apparently created enough artwork of Shauna to fill out the Metropolitan Museum.
She was a busy
And
little boy.
they take all this stuff and they burn it. But
After
Callie,
having sex.
after having sex and leaving all their DNA around Adam's studio, and after Jeff jams out to Papa Roach in his car and flashes back to having sex with his wife.
Was that like
Which
his coping mechanism? To
Iconic
like,
scene. Jeff is quickly becoming my favorite character on the show,
Right,
and he's
he's
not the main character.
He's
And
kind of the only realistic character at this point.
I can hear the audience is already saying he's the only man on the show. Of course, you would like him, but hey, Jeff is the most compelling character in Yellowjackets. He's the most relatable, I think, in my opinion. Like he's
He's the only one with any balls.
He's a man's man.
I am Team Jeff. So
You know what the best part about Jeff was? We have to acknowledge it. He sold a couple pieces of furniture, and that man, he was on a high. He was on a high, and I felt for him there. I really did.
He's like,
That,
"You
guy,
making
that,
a chicken
actor,
joke?"
that actor deserves an Emmy for that. Because
My-
I got behind him for selling a sectional.
I sold a six piece.
My dude needed a win. He needed bad, and we finally got one for him. Like, thank God. Natalie and Travis go hunting again, and they come across some mossy tree trunk. I don't know what that means, but Lottie, before they left, Lottie declares that Javi is still alive, and we know that she's got the powers of prediction. So Javi is going to come back at some point. And then the episode ends with Misty refusing to acknowledge that Natalie just ghosted her, even though Natalie has ghosted her all throughout season 1. So Misty, being Misty, tracks her down to her hotel, investigates her hotel room, and finds a little shard of the door frame and comes to the conclusion that she was kidnapped by Lottie's followers. Misty's an incredible detective. At the very end of the episode, Shauna, holding on to a piece of Jackie's ear that had fallen off her body, looks at it and then quickly gobbles it up.
Credits.
There's-
Snap
Music.
into a Slim
Friends,
Jim.
Romans,
There are-
Countrymen, lend me your ears.
There are better parts of the body. No, there's better parts of the body to eat than the cartilage of an ear.
Whatever.
Johnny would know.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Another plot hole. Bad writing.
Can
What
we
do you
talk
think the
about
best
how-
part is?
The best part of the episode?
No, the best part of
the
body
body?
to eat. It's the butt, right? Isn't that the most the tenderest?
Unless they've been doing butt workouts, then that's
Yeah,
a
I
firm
guess.
piece of meat. That's a firm and tough piece of meat.
That's a great question.
I
And
would
we'd have to
say
I bet you
Like
could Google
arms.
it.
You know who
Arms
would
and
let you
legs.
know? Army Hammer will let you know. That's a question you should ask Army Hammer.
Oh, I feel like he's just role playing though, isn't he? He's just a weird role play guy. He didn't actually eat anyone. did he?
you know what's funny to me is
I'm
that-
afraid to ask.
is that Army Hammer went through all that because he was a self-professed cannibal, but then his co-workers Timothy Chalamet and Luca Guadagnino, if that's how you pronounce his last name, went on to actually make a cannibal movie without Army Hammer, and they were the
that's
ones
a
who made
missed opportunity.
Call Me by Your Name together. So before we close out this episode, I'm gonna initiate the protocol, right? And we have already discussed this. Everyone votes in a snap count at the same time whether they want to keep watching this season or not. And if there's 3 or more votes, then we're gonna stop right here and now. So all right, so 3, 2, 1, thumbs up if you want to keep watching, thumbs down if you want to stop watching the season right here.
Are we being honest to our heart, or are
Honest
we,
to
are we
our heart, yeah. Exactly.
honest to our heart? Okay,
Honest.
Okay.
That's a
song.
sign. It's a sign.
Yeah.
My antlers fell down.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh.
All right, 4 of us.
You guys
want
aren't
keep watching.
honest.
I'm
I
being
want to
because-
know. I
because
want to know.
I personally need to know just how bad this show can get. It's already gotten bad. I need to see if it can get worse.
So
That's
Nick's
that's
gonna
my
vote
honest
yes
opinion.
every single episode this season. He's gonna be like,
We just need to-
Well,
Just
we're gonna-
more.
For the most part, that's probably true. But there may be a point where we hit the wall, and I'm just gonna be like, "Look, guys, I can't do it anymore."
Nick's gonna be like, we're keeping this Death March to Baton going.
Dude, I'm the only person
I-
as
I-
character
episode 3.
in this group.
No, I'm willing to give it another episode,
me too.
and if last time I was the cheerleader for this
Right?
whole
And I was the
season,
pessimist.
and I gave
Oh.
up at the end, and I'm just gonna give it one more, and then if it does not do anything interesting, you're gonna just 2 of these all day.
Right. So
how many
again,
episodes? Wait, how many episodes are there this season?
there's
48.
8 so far. That's
I'm
planned
willing
for.
to get to the halfway through the season. I'm willing to get to
Okay.
episode 4 before I give up.
Okay.
See,
Yeah,
if
do
I
3 or
reach
4.
if I reach a certain episode, I feel like I have to finish. So I'm the opposite of you guys.
You wanna just quit.
I want to quit early so I don't get invested.
Right. Well, remember that all 5 of us have to dislike an episode for this protocol to be triggered, right? In the first place. So next episode, one of us might end up liking it, and it might not be triggered at all, and we'll just keep going through it. So just keep that in mind.
Initiating spooky screen protocol.
Initiating spooky screen protocol. That's our review of episode 1 of season 2, or episode 11 of Yellowjackets, whatever you want to call it. I want to thank my hosts, Nick, Noah, Johnny, and David, for bearing through this review, just barely, by the skin of our teeth. We look forward to reviewing episode 2 next week. Don't forget to sub, leave a comment, like, and we'll see you all next week. So
Ring
thanks for
that bell.
tuning in to this spooky screen. Yes, ring that bell. Ding, ding, ding.
Bye. Peace.